Listen. My algorithm has been inundating me with videos of these people just taking the massivest deuce on Goblet of Fire. And this has been brewing for years now. I mean, it's damn near an Olympic sport to put down this movie. When whole time, it's my favorite movie in the entire series.
You need to leave!
Now, I know what you may think. Has he sustained some sort of brain injury that has impaired his thinking and ability to comprehend? Nope. Completely here and sober, baby. The only reason I'm even making this video is because I've reached critical mass. That's not a fat joke. And I can't take it anymore. So in the next 10 minutes to 4 hours, I'm gonna show you how this movie is so underrated and is hated undeservedly. Let's start with why I can even make this video. Unlike the other 99% of people who read the books, I actually like the movies and books, get this, equally. I've read all the books multiple times in 2 different languages. I'm also old enough to remember me going to the theater and watching this movie on a Friday morning where I literally skipped school. But if you still somehow don't believe I'm qualified to make this video, I'll settle this right now. I'm a Ravenclaw, baby. Ravenclaw. Best house. Eagle crest, by the way. Not a raven. But anyways, the main reason people hate on this movie is the deviation from the books. Or the book, I should say. People who are like, well, I didn't like the pacing of the movie. The movie felt a bit too rushed or uneven. The complex narrative. Just stop. What are you even saying? This ain't Rotten Tomato. Yes, they did cut off a lot of scenes that we may truly have enjoyed. But, and it's a big, massive but, what people fail to remember is, this is the second longest book in the series. Yes, even longer than Deathly Hallows. The main plot of this entire book, and listen to me carefully, the main plot of this entire book was Harry surviving the Triwizard Tournament and finding out who put his name in the Goblet of Fire. Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry? What? I'm not yelling. I'm very calm right now. Solid meme, okay? Very solid meme. On a scale of 1 to solid, it's an 8. It's pretty damn solid. It's not a liquid. Anyways, back to the plot. The plot is Harry surviving the Triwizard Tournament and finding out who put his name in the Goblet of Fire. It's not about the Quidditch World Cup. It's not about Winky. It's not even about Voldemort's return. And if you're like, who are these people? Don't worry, I'll get to that. I'll explain everything in a moment. We're still in the intro. I told you, this could take up to 4 hours. Let me yap. Did the movie accomplish that? Did the movie accomplish the plot that I previously mentioned? Yes. It perfectly accomplished that. I think they actually did a good job with accomplishing that. Unlike the fact that they spent the entire CGI budget on the first task instead of giving us a sweet maze. We're on the same page on that one. But anyways, what was missing from the movie? I'm not going to go into details about each and every difference, minute things like characters' physical appearances, Voldemort's eyes should have been this, Moody's hair color. Let's just stick to major storylines that they cut out entirely. The movie starts off, yes, this is the Veritasium music. I like it. The movie starts off with Frank making some good old English tea. Hello, innit? And saying his famous line. Bloody kids. Oh, Frank, you old rascal. Meanwhile, the book starts with the backstory about Frank. Decades earlier, he worked for these muggles, the Riddle family, who get murdered, and he gets blamed for it. And then back in the present time in the book, they mentioned Frank interrupting Voldemort and Wormtail's conversation. Barty Crouch was not there in the book. He hears about a witch called Bertha Jorkins, yada yada yada. Frank gets whacked, blah blah blah. Do I miss Frank's backstory? No. I'm just watching a movie. What do I care? He could have been a war criminal for all I care. So that's one major cut from the movie, but let's go to the next one. In the movie, Harry wakes up in the burrow, Ron's house. But in the book, he's picked up from the Dursleys by the Weasleys. They explode their fireplace, the twins poison Dudley, typical Weasley family activities. Did that affect the overriding plot? No. Do I miss it from the movie? Also no. Next. The movie then picks up from the day of the Quidditch World Cup. In the book, Harry was chilling there for quite a while before they had to leave for the World Cup. He met the older Weasley brothers and, just had an overall swell time over there. Did that cut affect the previously mentioned overriding plot of, in case you forgot, Harry surviving the Triwizard Tournament and finding out who put his name in the Goblet of Fire? No. Do I miss it? It would have been cool to see Charlie Weasley. Next. In the movie, they take the portkey and get to the camp area with Amos and Cedric Diggory. They separate there and go to their tents. This is kind of how it is in the book as well. Maybe the campsite employees, the only major cut that I can think of. Oh, and the fact that there are 2 tents, one for the boys, one for the girls. And that they met their classmates at the campsite. Not too outlandish of a cut. Did not affect the main plot at all. So next. The movie then cuts to them walking up to their seats at the stadium. Lucius Malfoy says my favorite line from the entire movie.
If it rains, you'll be the first to know.
Typical Malfoy family activities. The book's version is a bit different. Before they reach the stadium, back at the campsite, the Weasley twins talk to some dude who's named Ludovic Bagman. But people just call him Ludo. They place a bet with him, and the fact that him being the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports, and also as well at the same time simultaneously being a degenerate gambler, is just, oh my god, perfection. The removal of Ludo from the plot, not gonna lie, pretty major. Because he's actually supposed to announce the Quidditch World Cup. He's also supposed to be at Hogwarts for the games. He's also the one announcing every task at Hogwarts for the tournament. And he's the one who tells the other contestants or champions that Harry's name got pulled out of the Goblet of Fire. So, yeah, that's pretty major. But anyways, back to them arriving at the stadium. They all sit at the minister's booth, and we're introduced to Winky for the first time. Winky's a house elf for the Crouch family that was cut out from the movie entirely. More on that later. The match then starts, and the twins are right about the results of the match, and they win the bet with Ludo Bagman, but they get paid in leprechaun gold, which is basically just their version of counterfeit money. So that did actually kind of low-key perhaps maybe affected the main plot. So, you get this one. Congrats. But who's keeping score? If you are, please don't. In the movie, the Death Eaters show up while the kids were celebrating. They burn stuff, they scare folks, they chant in unison, and then they leave. Typical Death Eater activities. That also happens in the book. Maybe even more terrorization happened than in the movie, but the major difference is the only reason that they even leave is because they see the dark mark in the sky. Also in the book, Harry doesn't get knocked out or see the man in the shadows from a distance. He's just with Ron and Hermione the whole time, and they run into the woods. And after that, the 3 of them see the dark mark, but they don't see who cast it. In the movie, the ministry officials show up and they're like, search the grounds! But in the book, they blame Winky who was there. She's found at the scene, the house elf that I previously mentioned. But I'm also going to mention it in the future. So don't worry. It doesn't affect the main plot that much, I would say, or at all actually. The movie just made it more dramatic since they didn't have a Winky to blame. So they had to play it off and make it more dramatic. Next. The movie then cuts to the Hogwarts Express, but in the book, they go back to the Burrow, Ron's house again, after all the shenanigans that happened in the World Cup. They spent some time there, and we're introduced to Mad-Eye Moody, his character, and Rita Skeeter, her character. which the film also does, you know, eventually, but in a different way. So I don't really see how that's even a cut. Also does not affect the plot at all. So next, the truly major cut from the movie is the backstory of Barty Crouch Jr. and how he was sent to Azkaban as part of the Death Eater group who tortured Neville's parents. He then escaped from Azkaban with the help of his own father, you know, who was the lead, magical law enforcement dude, Barty Crouch Sr., who only helped his son escape from prison, or from Azkaban, I should say, as a last favor for his dying wife. Barty Crouch Sr. then casts the Imperius Curse upon his son, Barty Crouch Jr., just to make sure he doesn't go back to any of his naughty Death Eatery ways. And to watch over him and / help him day to day, he assigned Winky, the house elf that I mentioned 5 million times already. And yes, if you are a keen-eared listener, he was at the Minister's box with Harry, Hermione, the Weasleys, the Malfoys, and everyone else. But under an invisibility cloak, because months earlier than that, Winky, who feels bad about the fact that her master, Barty Crouch Jr. is under the Imperius Curse, she's begged Barty Crouch Sr. to let him go watch the match because, before that, he wasn't allowed to kind of do anything else and he was just stuck in the house. There's a few details that happened before, during, and after all that, but that was the gist of it. So now you can see why they had to cut Ludo out of the movie. Because if they had Ludo, then they wouldn't need Barty Sr. And if they don't need Barty Sr. there, then they have to explain where he is. And to explain where he is, they have to mention that he's under the Imperius Curse by Voldemort, who is living in his home with Barty Sr. And to explain why that even happened, they need to explain how Voldemort met this lady called Bertha Jorkins, who is already not in the movie at all. So I kind of understand why they cut all that out. Next. The movie shows Harry going into the pensive, witnessing Karkaroff's trial. Karkaroff talking, yapping. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. In the book, he witnesses 2 other trials, though. After that one. One for Ludo, and the other for 4 Death Eaters who were accused of torturing Neville's parents. And Barty Jr. was one of these 4. They didn't show this because they didn't show Barty Jr. being in prison at all in this movie. So there was no point of showing it. So they just showed Karkaroff, yapping away and exposing Barty Jr. So that's kind of how they dealt with that. The only cut that I've genuinely heard about is the maze. The maze task is so epic in the books. The magical creatures, the challenges they had to go through. It should have 1000% been in the movie. There is no reason for it to be cut from the movie. Literally no reason that I can think of other than the fact that they just didn't want to do it. It's almost been 20 years now, and I'm still mad about this. So I think this is my only valid criticism of the movie. At the end of the day, what I truly think hammered the final nail in the coffin of Goblet of Fire is the fact that it is sandwiched between 2 movies that are considered by the casuals as cinematic masterpieces. So imagine watching Prisoner of Azkaban and watching Goblet of Fire right after. Of course you're gonna be disappointed. You want my honest opinion on Prisoner of Azkaban? Mid. But we'll do the rankings in a future video. That's what truly subconsciously cooked this movie, is the fact that people enjoyed Prisoner of Azkaban and Order of the Phoenix so much. So like I said, my only criticism of the movie is the fact that the maze is just so much more basic than what it is or was in the book. The fact that they cut out all the things I previously mentioned is not a valid criticism of the movie, because I kind of understand why they did it, and also the fact that it did not affect them from portraying the overriding plot, which is, the Triwizard Tournament and who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire and all that. But anyways, thank you for watching. I'm gonna be making a rankings video for the movies in the near future, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, thanks again. Peace.